Hey friends, forgive me for not being on camera today. My cold makes me horrible. So I wanted to just give you a little introduction to Iran. We have already talked a lot about it, but I wanted to share this image of the geography. We talked about how snowy it is in Iran, but this is showing you that it's a lot of mountain ranges in Iran, a little bit of desert, and the Caspian Sea to the north, and then the Persian Gulf to the south. So the capital is up here by the Caspian Sea. Now, geopolitically, what makes Iran strong right now is the fact that it controls this tiny opening of the Persian Gulf through which 50% of the world's oil has to come in order to reach its market. And then just some other things to notice are that Afghanistan and Pakistan are over here on this side. Turkmenistan, formerly Russia, above. Azerbaijan and Armenia are currently at war, and Azerbaijan is both Azerbaijanis and Armenians are a big part of the ethnic population of Iran. There's Turkey and Iraq, which you'll be hearing more about when you study Syria in world history. So, kind of right in the middle of it here. So, as I mentioned, ethnically, Iran is mostly composed of people who identify as Persian and speak the language Farsi, but there are a lot of other languages, and this is partly because of Iran's history of being colonized from both sides, and partly just the diversity of the Middle East showing up. Notice in particular the large number of Kurdish people and Azeris, that's the Azerbaijanis. So we've already talked a little bit about Islam in Iran, but the key thing to know about Iran from that, right, is that the Shia sect within Islam is the dominant group in Iran, which makes it different than all other nation states in the Middle East. The other thing to remember is that doesn't mean that Iran is not a religiously diverse place. There are other religions, and just always keeping in mind that the tradition of Christianity and Judaism is as old in this part of the world as the religions themselves. And then Zoroastrianism is a very important religion, and probably this 25% belies the fact that many Shia Muslims practice Zoroastrian traditions in their daily and annual rituals. So let's just talk a little bit about Zoroastrianism, which is a religion that follows the prophet, the Zarathustra, and it's probably the oldest, if not one of the oldest religions in the world. So it's a unique in terms of old religions in that it has this one God. There are angels and goddesses, but it has one God who's sort of the most important figure. And then the prophet preached a style of life based on the three principles of good deeds, good words, good thoughts. In the tradition of Zoroastrianism, fire and water are the key elements that, in terms of religion, in terms of the composition of the cosmos. And so a lot of the ceremonies circle around that. This is a midwinter ceremony celebrating the shortest day of the year. In Tehran, and inside of the temple, they've got a big bonfire going here to purify their life going forward. And then the biggest holiday of the year is New Year, which is always celebrated on the first day of spring. And they have water and a mirror and the grass, each of these things, and eggs, each of these things symbolizing some wishes for the new year and some intention to purify and get right with the world. So in the comic book, you'll see them observing a lot of these traditions, and that's, it's as much a nationalist or ethnic pride thing as it is a religion at this point. Iran is famous for its architecture, and this is an example of what they call the Persian dome, a particular style of dome construction that you see repeated all over the place. But the architecture tradition goes back. This is like pre-Arab architecture, the Arab era architecture, which you'll see in the history story a little more. And this is a modern building in Ishan. Persian folk music is really special. I wanted you to see this instrument called the tar and the tanbak. And I thought I would play you a little sample. So hopefully we'll be able to do this and get around the YouTube censors with just a short sample. So I don't want to make the sample too long, but if you listen to it longer, the voice comes in, and it's a nice long piece, very meditative. If you'd like something to listen to while you're reading, this could be excellent. That would normally be accompanied by folk dance, and each ethnic group inside of Iran has its own traditional line dance. So here's just a little sample of what that might look like. Something else to check out. So the last thing I was going to mention about Iran is the food. And Iranian food is also very different from other food in the Middle East. The cuisine is built around this series of different stews called kuresh. And usually this stew will feature something sour and something sweet, along with the kind of, fat of a meat. This particular one is made with pomegranate seeds and walnuts. And the other thing that is a traditional thing is a pot of rice, but made with saffron. And then the bottom of the burned rice in the bottom of the pan is considered a delicacy. Perhaps you're familiar with this in other cultures. The kebab is a way of spicing meat and cooking it over a fire. And another thing that's very Iranian Persian is this idea of a mixture of different fresh herbs served with everything, and sometimes cooked inside and sometimes served fresh. So just a little bit to get you going, and I'm hoping you'll enjoy your reading today.